Hi everybody, it's Harvard lawyer Lee. Who are Amber Heard's new lawyers, and can they change the result from the last trial? Maybe. Let's talk about it. Amber has hired 2 new attorneys for the appeal, so I got to wondering, who are these new lawyers? And today I thought I would answer 3 questions. First, who are these 2 new attorneys Amber has hired? Second, what is their biggest claim to fame? And then I'm going to tell you about why the National Law Review is calling their most famous case a hot mess. It is quite a story. And third, are they going to make a difference? Are they going to get the case reversed? Of course, you will remember that Amber Heard had 2 chief attorneys at trial. She's keeping one, Ben Rotenborn, but Elaine has decided to move on. I don't think you can sugarcoat it. It sounds like Amber fired Elaine. Before we get started, please feed the YouTube algorithm by liking the video and subscribe. I want to see you back for more videos. So let's get into the first question. Who are these 2 new attorneys Amber has hired? They are David Axelrod and J. Ward Brown, both from the law firm of Ballard Spahr. Ballard Spahr is a huge law firm with 650 attorneys in 15 offices all over the U.S. So let's look at J. Ward Brown first. He actually started a career as a journalist before he went to law school. He got his master's in journalism at the University of Minnesota at Minneapolis and worked as a journalist for public television for several years before he attended NYU's School of Law. He now specializes in representing news and entertainment companies and defamation cases. In the description on the Ballard Spahr website, he touts his writing skills, which means that between Axelrod and Brown, Brown is probably going to be the lawyer most focused on the appeal. Interestingly, J. Ward Brown doesn't even mention the New York Times case in his brag sheet list of cases. It only shows up in a list of other articles available on the firm website, so I don't know how involved he was, but I'm guessing that he is the one who originally brought the New York Times in as his client. Now let's talk about David Axelrod. He went to Haverford College outside Philadelphia and then to Harvard Law School. I have to say, for some reason, I really do like his law school a lot. Axelrod calls himself something very specific on the Ballard Spahr website. He doesn't call himself an appellate lawyer. He calls himself a first chair trial lawyer. Now, if you aren't a lawyer, you could easily gloss over that and think, he's just saying he's a lawyer. No, that means something very particular to lawyers. When David Axelrod says he is a trial lawyer, he is saying he actually tries cases. It may surprise you to know that most lawyers don't try cases, and frankly, most don't even want to. And David Axelrod did not just say he was a trial lawyer. He said he was a first chair trial lawyer. That means Axelrod is not just saying that he tries cases, but that he tries them as lead counsel, as the main lawyer for his side. So it's very interesting that Amber Heard has hired 2 new lawyers, and one says his specialty is being a trial lawyer who tries cases. Trying a case is not what you do on appeal. On appeal, you just have the lawyers write briefs, and then you send the lawyers to make an argument to the court. Maybe a half hour per side. In very rare cases, maybe an hour. That's it. So it looks like the Ballard Spahr firm is not just coming in for the appellate's sake. If they can get the case dismissed entirely during the appeal, they'd obviously be happy with that. But if the appellate court orders a new trial and sends the case back to the trial court, David Axelrod is probably the lawyer who will try the case. Axelrod says he defends parties sued for defamation. And of course, that's exactly what Johnny Depp sued Amber Heard for, and vice versa. But if you look at Axelrod's brag sheet list of cases on his website, I have to say that it doesn't really look like he specializes in defamation cases. Other than the New York Times case, which I'll talk about in just a minute, pretty much everything he has done related to securities law or corporate issues or something other than defamation. In fact, he was an attorney with the Securities and Exchange Commission, the SEC, for several years. So that's the inside scoop on the 2 guys Amber has hired. Now let's talk about their biggest claim to fame, which is that they recently successfully defended the New York Times, at least Axelrod. I'm going to tell you about why the National Law Review is calling their most famous case a hot mess. Then be sure to stick around for the really big question, does having Axelrod and Brown in the case make it more likely Amber will win the appeal? I'm not going to tell you who was suing the New York Times until the end of the story because I want you to understand the context. So I'll just say somebody who will be named at the end was suing the New York Times for libel. Libel is defamation that has been written down or published. Some of you may guess as I'm talking about the suit, and then at the end I'll tell you why I'm holding back the name. Here's what happened in the case. A PAC, Political Action Committee, was targeting certain members of Congress in order to have them voted out of office. The PAC created an ad that used a circle with a faint crosshairs mark in it to show which members they wanted to lose the next election. Here's the ad. One of the members of Congress that the PAC was targeting was Democrat Gabrielle Giffords. You may remember she was shot and badly injured. In an editorial a few years later, the New York Times talked about the ad and wrote, "There's no sign of incitement as direct as in the Giffords attack." In other words, the plaintiff said in the lawsuit, the New York Times was saying that the PAC ad directly incited the shooting attack on Gabby Giffords. The New York Times later admitted that there was no known connection between the PAC ad and the Giffords attack. The person who started the PAC sued the New York Times. There was a trial, and the jury went back to deliberate. While the jury was still deliberating, the judge announced that he did not believe the PAC had produced a speck of evidence that the New York Times had acted with actual malice. So the judge said that no matter how the jury came back, he planned to throw the case out. Unfortunately, some of the jurors actually received push notifications on their phones telling them what the judge had just announced. But the judge let the jury keep deliberating anyway. The next day, the jury came back with a verdict in favor of the New York Times. So while Axelrod claims to have won the New York Times jury trial, he had a little help from the judge who, in effect, accidentally sent a message to members of the jury telling them how he thought they ought to rule. The National Law Review said the appeal in that case is going to be a hot mess, and that's the truth. So now for the big reveal. Whose PAC was it? Who was suing the New York Times? It was Sarah Palin. I told you that at the end so that your understanding would come from the case and not from any positive or negative impressions you have of Sarah Palin. So that's the case that is Axelrod's biggest claim to fame, but it is about to be under heavy attack on appeal. Now, when you hear that the New York Times was arguing actual malice, that ought to ring some far-off bells and remind you of what you heard about in the Depp v. Heard case. Under the law, it's harder for someone to win a defamation case if they're a public figure. The law gives you room to talk about public figures in a way you can't talk about a private citizen. In order to win a defamation case, the public figure has to prove that you said something about them that was defamatory and you said it with actual malice. Judge Axelrod ruled that both Johnny Depp and Amber Heard were public figures. That means that in order for Johnny Depp to win, he had to show Amber Heard acted with actual malice. And for Amber Heard to win on her claims, she had to prove actual malice as well. So that's who David Axelrod and J. Ward Brown are and what their biggest claim to fame is. But now let's get to the real question. Can they make a difference on the appeal and in a new trial? The short answer is yes, they can make a difference. These are top-tier lawyers, and they are going to get more respect on appeal than Amber's original trial team would have. They will especially command respect when it comes to the First Amendment and actual malice issues, since they have just won a significant case on those issues. And the very fact that Amber picked these two lawyers shows us she is probably going to focus her appeal on those issues. But even so, Axelrod and Brown still have an uphill battle to win the appeal for Amber Heard. On appeal, the scale is weighted heavily on the side of the party that won at trial. Appellate courts are always reluctant to overturn a jury verdict. According to the Court Statistics Project, a defendant, that would be Amber when it comes to Johnny's claims against her, if a defendant like Amber loses a jury trial and appeals, the defendant only wins 31% of the time. In this case, Judge Axelrod tried a very tight case, making good, solid rulings. It was long very public and extremely expensive for Fairfax County. The judge made hundreds and perhaps thousands of rulings over the course of the trial, everything from motions in limine to objection hearsay. I've said from right after the trial finished that if an appellate court wants to reverse a case, in a 6-week trial, it can always find some ruling about something that it can use to justify reversing the case. But in this particular instance, I doubt the appellate court is going to be looking to find a way to reverse the case. Just the opposite. I think they're going to be reluctant to reverse a well-respected judge who tried a case under extraordinarily difficult public scrutiny. So Amber made a smart move hiring these 2 new attorneys, but right now she's a long, long way from a new trial. Thanks for watching. Come back for more. I'll see you in the next video.